Oh, you're in for a treat today. There's no Tom Marino. Welcome to the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. If you were here last week, you heard our 100th episode. So that means I'm here with my friend Carson Hoffman today with episode 101. So we're starting a whole new, it's like starting from zero all over again, Carson, you know?
I'm pumped. I'm glad to be here since I couldn't make it.
Nice, pal. So we're going to do this a little bit differently than normal. We're still going to have our Q&A session, but first I want to congratulate Carson because Carson has recently gone through the entire 5WH process. Took him a little bit, about 3.5 months with a few gaps for vacations and this and that, but he has gone through it with, from what Tom and I believe, is one of the most effective and efficient ways that we've seen somebody go through this entire process in the 4+ years we've been doing this in a variety of different ways. Carson really took ownership of the process. He was super committed to the entire thing. He's very obsessed about building his business. So he really does live the CEO mindset, commitment, effort, obsession. So let's just start there, Carson. So how do you feel now that you've gone through the entire program?
I mean, I've said it in the sessions that we've had, but the biggest thing for me is just like the clarity and knowing, yes, more about my business, but also I think more about me as like a person. And I think that's a credit to you and Tom both. I know we do a lot of that stuff working with Tom and kind of figuring things out about like ourselves on the business side. But it's been huge just to learn more about myself and the business as well. So I'd say clarity is probably the biggest one.
That's interesting that you say clarity about yourself because it's one of the byproducts of what we do that most people don't come into this for, right? They're usually like, hey, I want to be able to prospect better, sell better, make more money, build my business. But what Tom and I have always believed is that in order to have a really great business, you have to be a really great business owner. And that doesn't mean that you're a good leader. While that's very helpful, doesn't mean you're a very high revenue generator. While that's helpful, what it means is you truly are following your purpose in whatever it is that you're doing. And so many people miss out on that aspect of their lives. It's really shitty. Like, I don't care if you're a school teacher, you're a nurse, you're a cop, you're a business owner, you're a titan of industry, whatever it is. If you don't have that purpose, it really sucks going and doing that thing for the majority of your life. And that's what I think we found with you is you kind of thought this was your purpose, and as we watched, you kind of lit up throughout this entire process of like, wow, this is exactly what I want to do. And you almost fell in love with your own company. Did you see that for
Yeah.
yourself?
Oh, absolutely. It's been a big change. I think it's tough because I've never had like a job or an internship. So this is kind of my only option out of college. I mean, I started the business in college, just kind of dipping my toe in. And then once graduation hit, it was, balls to the wall, I'm going all in. Um, and I've very much so like fallen back in love with what I do. I think even more, which is kind of weird to say. I think a lot of that falling back in love or falling deeper in love with something you already thought you loved comes down to, growth mindset and really just like wanting to learn more. The more I learn, the more obsessed I become. Just new ways to do things, new ways to go and try things. It's just that commitment to learning and growing, not only in on the business side, but also, like I said, as a person. That's a big thing for me is like personal development. I love that stuff and philosophy. So I think all of those like coming together, it's kind of like this big conglomerate of just like making up who I am and turning that into the business.
What do you believe is the thing that is on your mind the most now that wasn't on your mind when you first started this as you go throughout your day running your business?
I think for me, the something that's kind of been taken off my mind more is the worry of like being able to sell people. And I think that's like a confidence thing. It was, much more of that. I think going through, you know, specifically the beginning of the program where we really nailed down the 5 Ws. I think that in and of itself helped me become a better salesman on the, selling myself to business owners because I now know a lot more of the who, the what, the where, the when, the why. I know that stuff at my core, so I can be more passionate about it when I speak about it. And I think that's carried over really well into sales calls and into, getting people to work with me.
Yeah, that is our hope of that people can finally grasp what their clients really are, what they need, and then what their offering is. Because most of us, as we've gone through any kind of sales training, building our businesses, creating our own offers, is we are dialed in with the features and the benefits and the outcomes. And it's like we already know that, and we're like, wow, these people should actually want this thing, and I'm really good at doing this thing. Why don't they want it? And it's like it's a struggle. And when we have the ability to then lock into who those people are as individuals instead of as a mass of people that we're trying to sell to, and what our offer really provides for people, it's game changing for all of us. It's funny because as Tom and I develop new programs and new offerings, we just came out with this community called First M, helping people to make their first $1 million. And it's kind of an in between where people do one on one coaching and people are doing the 5WH process. Um, we get to go through our own W's all over again. And it's a fun experiment. And like you said, you get to fall in love with something. Well, it's even better when you're creating something from the standpoint of let me look at it through the lens of these 5 W's and really what do people need? And I find for myself that many times as I'm creating an offer, the offer comes last. And it's me looking at the need of this group of people first. And then I'm like, holy shit, like this is what they need. Now, how do I create it? Where most of the time we come from a point of like, okay, here's what I have on my shelf to sell. Now, how do I go figure out who these people are and what they need and all this other stuff? So I'm really excited for the next offer that you have. Not that you need a new one yet, but when you create that next offer, coming back to the skills that you've gained through this and looking at it through that lens, where you think about the need and the people and yourself, and then after that, like, all right, here's how I build the offer around that stuff.
It's like, I mean, you've said it before, like, you use this framework for everything, and it's funny, I don't know if you saw, last week I posted a video talking about why people should use the when and not the who. It helps people, and especially in advertising, get specific with who they're trying to reach, and it's like, yeah, demographic, you want, 30-year-old moms or whatever for this product. It's like, okay, well, when do they really need that product? I use the example of like a sleep supplement. Their kid's not sleeping through the night. Uh, they can't get any sleep when they do sleep through the night because, they're just constantly up thinking about it. And like that's the when they need you. So it's okay to get specific with that. And it's funny now that I've taken that piece of the 5 W's and applied it to, not only about the business, but in the business.
Yeah, it goes to everything that you'll do in your life. I mean, when you buy your first house, Carson, you'll start to look at the 5 W's. You won't consciously do it, but you'll start to. That's how we make decisions, and it's really looking at those 5 things. And that's why I have through 25 years of building businesses and being a producer and helping people and becoming a father and all these things that I do. It just naturally comes from me. That's why sometimes when I'm working with people, I get a little frustrated. I'm like, how come you don't just get this? And I have to take a step back and like, shut up, Adam. You've been doing this for 2 decades. Like, of course they don't know. They just got introduced to it. So yeah, when I saw you do that post, I was kind of proud. Like, look at him. He's using the system, he's doing the thing, as I always say. So let me ask you, sales are great. Knowing your product is good. The hardest part of everything that we do as business owners, as salespeople, is prospecting. So what has really changed for you about prospecting?
That's a good question. So for me, I think it's been getting specific, really just kind of taking it back to that and being more intentional about who I'm reaching out to and why I'm reaching out to them. And then using, the information I've gathered from the work we did together and applying that to the research I do before. It's great being in an industry where you can go and look and see if people really, need your service. It does require more research and work, whether you have to get them on a call or not to uncover the other things and really see if they're qualified to work with me. But I think like the ability to get specific has made things a lot more streamlined and a lot simpler.
It's funny you said it without any hesitation. If they're qualified to work with me, and that's what I'm so happy to hear from you is that you're looking at it that way now. It's like, are these people that I could help the right people that I should help? And it's when we make that pivot in our brains, in our work, in our prospecting, in our selling of like, hey, are they the right fit for me and what I do? Because There's 9 billion people on this planet, man. I mean, we could work with anyone we want to, but wouldn't we rather work with the people that we choose to and we know are going to be a good fit? That is, it is a game changer in your life. I mean, I always replicate or I always look at prospecting in comparison to dating. And it's like, you don't just date everybody, right? You pick and choose. I mean, maybe some people date everybody, happy 20s, enjoy college, but after that, we get kind of picky and choosy of who we're going to spend our time with, and it's the same premise here. And once we have that ability to know what we like and know what we dislike and understand what skill sets we have and how we can apply those to certain people, it really opens up more doors. It starts to limit who you can work with, but it opens up the door to those people wide. And it's like, wow, it's you almost see it without having to look for it. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
100%. I wanna kinda touch on this as well because, one of my favorite books of all time is called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, and it talks about how the subconscious mind makes all these decisions and, it needs information to make those decisions, and once you kind of go through the 5 Ws and that information is in your brain, you start to make these decisions and realize things without even knowing it and realize like, "Oh, like, this person would be good or not good to work with me," and it's just reps. It's just more reps each time you do it. Um, so it's one of those things where, the more you do it, the easier it becomes and, the simpler things kinda get for your business.
Well, and you said a word there that I usually don't allow anybody to use, which is easier.
Yep.
But here's the graduation gift, if you haven't already gotten what we sent you. But here's the graduation gift: is that from here on out, it actually does get easier now. Okay, and you know how much while we're going through our course that I don't allow people to use the word easy because business and life are simple; they're just not easy. But what happens is now you've simplified it. And when you simplify it, it actually does become easy because now it is what you said. It's just going through those repetitions and without being bored. And the way you can avoid the monotony in life, in business, in prospecting, in sales, is by looking into the specifics of those people. The beauty is in all those little tiny details that we get to explore. Yes, we're still selling the same product, the same service. We're going through a very similar pitch. We're solving very similar problems, but when we start to look at the little idiosyncrasies of every person and the flaws that they have, and that's what makes things special, right? Those imperfections is what makes things really unique. Otherwise, it would all be the same thing and you'd be bored. And we're not here to work on a manufacturing line, right? We're here to enjoy the process of what we're doing. Unfortunately, in order to get to that point, you have to go through some hell. And you really have spent, the last 3+ months going through that hell without bitching, without moaning. I credit that a lot to your upbringing from your family military background, your college sports playing lacrosse, and then just your true grit and determination to do this thing no matter what gets in your way. I've just noticed that and recognized that about everything that you do, even when you talked about your fitness and other aspects of it. I really see that in you.
I
So let's
appreciate
let's
that.
go to the last piece, and then I'm gonna go back to you for to our normal Q&A. So what about the sales? Because that's really phase three. We go through the sales. So what would you say the difference is from where you were before this program to where you are now?
I'm kinda gonna bring it back again to, like, the 5 Ws. It gives you those cues, and now I get to pick up on those things, and it's less of me talking and more of me asking questions and just listening. I think before I did a better job of, like, not talking as much and kind of just spewing vomit out my mouth, but now I think the recognition is there, 1, and 2, asking the right questions. Like, having this kind of framework where I know what questions I need to ask, what I need to figure out in order to qualify them to work with me. And something else I wanna touch on real quick is, like, the mindset of, qualifying someone to work with you has been another game changer for me because I think it gives you the power to say no. And I actually was just listening to a podcast about, like, the power of no, and it's one of those things where, when you're early on in your career and you need the experience, you have to say yes. Most of the time you just try to say yes so you can get that experience onto you. But when you get to a certain point, it's like, okay, now I need to see who's right for me. And the beauty of business is there's thousands and thousands of other ad agencies out there in America, but not every company is fit to work with every single one. And I think that's a very powerful thing that you get to take into control when you frame it that way. And that kinda has been another big thing in the sales part is like, okay, are we a good fit to work together as opposed to the 88 other thousand agencies in the US? You know, and I think getting niche down and really identifying like what is right for you with the 5 Ws has made sales a lot simpler and a lot quicker for me to pick up on those things.
Yeah, and you end up not having to really sell. It's just having a conversation and aligning, hey, we want to work with each other and moving forward with that. You're such a young man, and to learn, I mean, I would have given anything to go back to your age and learn this stuff then. And Tom and I have so much hope, and we are really looking forward to watching your journey and seeing where you take this company and where you take your life. Because you came at this very differently than most people. Some people come at this out of a desperation point where they're like, "Hey, I'm stuck. I can't sell anything," and they need to, and we help them get through that. Others come here because they're like, "Hey, I want to make as much fucking money as I possibly can," and it's like, okay, that's good, but we have to undo some of that and get to why they're doing it. You came in kind of blank. And what I mean by that is you didn't really have any expectations except what you said earlier on is having this growth mindset, having this ability to learn and then implement knowledge and come back to the coaching sessions, show us what you have, and then us pivot that or tweak that or confirm that's really a great way to go. I remember, no pun intended, when you finally caught on to yourself of like it's about memorability and psychology. And when you link those two things together, it was like this epiphany that happened. And I think many people who come into coaching, who come into a course with preconceived notions and really like it's either I'm going to get this expectation or I don't think it's good, they have a tough time going through anything. And you really came into this totally open and willing to learn. And that's why Tom and we're just so proud of you, pal.
I appreciate it. Means a lot from you guys.
Well, I appreciate that you trusted in us to help you along that journey. All right, so we have about half the podcast left. Let's go into what we normally do. So, what questions do you have? Seeing that you're not going to be in our community much longer, what other things that we can answer for you, and shoot from there.
I actually thought of this on my walk today. If you were to go back and tell yourself one thing before you started your business when the fear was at its height, like you weren't ready to pull the trigger yet, what would that one thing be?
I think I would want to let myself know that retirement is bullshit. And what I mean by that is this notion of you do all these things to build up this wealth so you can live this life one day is a crock of shit. I've watched and helped so many people get to that point, and their lives actually aren't as good as when they were working. Now, for some, they are better, but they waited their entire lives to get to that point. And I have to say, it was about 5 years ago when I realized like I already get to live the retirement life. Like I do whatever I want every single day. I don't want for money. I don't want for things. And I don't drive Ferraris and I don't live in a 20,000 square foot home. While I have really nice stuff, I have the nice stuff that I want and is right for me and my family. But you can literally have that life that you're dreaming of today. And I always had this like grind it out, put the work in, learn the stuff, save the money, build the business, and one day I'll get to do this thing. And like I said, about 5 years ago, it just clicked and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm living what I always thought I wanted to do. And it wasn't about the money. While I'm very blessed with that, it was more about the freedom of decision making throughout my day, the freedom to be a father, the freedom to be able to pick and choose who I work with, the freedom to decide to do stuff or not do stuff. That freedom is what most people are actually striving for in retirement. And you don't have to wait until a certain age or a certain dollar amount in your bank account to have that. You get to do that today. And when you do it, there is no end, meaning like people ask me, Adam, when are you going to retire? And I say at 97. I'm like, what? And I said, because that's the day I've decided I'm going to die. Like I'm doing what I want to do forever. And when you have the ability to say, all right, if I choose what I want to do forever now and actually do that and enjoy my life and understand that what I do forever now might be different a year from now, that's okay. So that would be the number one thing I would go back and tell young Adam, like, hey, pal, you're never going to retire.
I 100% love that answer because so my grandfather passed away a couple years ago. He legitimately so he started his own engineering firm in Atlanta and worked until he was I think probably until he got diagnosed with ALS. And even then he like was while he was still able to function, still going in the office, still doing work, like had already sold the company and made the money. Um and like that's kind of how I envision the rest of what I want to do going is like, I'm the same way. I want to work until I drop. And it's not for any other reason other than just like I've realized like I love to do what I love to do. And while money is awesome and all well and great, I think you said it best when like the freedom is the best part of it. And I think in a lot of entrepreneurs' mindsets, that is ultimately what makes it so great is you get to decide every aspect of your life. Like you're not at the mercy of, a boss or even really like markets or salaries or, whatever it might be. You're at the mercy of your own will. So it's a beautiful thing to just it's scary because it's like it's all up to you, but it's a beautiful thing to realize like your life's in your hands, it's not in anybody else's.
And when you give that gift to yourself, because that's the only way it can happen, you have to give that, you have to accept that, well, this is my choice. I am in determination of what I do next. That is a game changer in anything that you do. I don't care if you are a 9 to 5 or another corporate job and you're waiting for 30 years to retire and get that pension. You still get to choose how you do those things. It's really a wonderful gift that you can give to yourself. And you mentioned about that freedom again, and that it really is it. Most people have this illusion of freedom. They don't really have a meaning of what their freedom is because it may be different for me as it is for you, whoever's listening. It's okay. That's why it's freedom. The unique thing is what you do in advertising. I feel that because you're so mature and you're so in tune with who you are and what you're doing now, that freedom is what makes advertising so special. When you see someone really take that risk that was right for their brand, was right for their product, was right for their service, and it becomes memorable instead of being stuck of like, I have to do this because society says it. And it's those people that instantly. It's like, you're kind of mailing it in because I get it. You're worried what may happen if you open that up. So not only do you get to do that in your life and for your business, but it must be incredible knowing that you're going to be doing that for all of your clients going forward too.
It is. It's definitely one of those things where you kind of look at a situation and you know what the goal is to make memorable ads. But I think taking it a step further, it's like you get to create memories not only for yourself but for other people. And it's like that's like the special part. Is like I look at ads on the street even before I got into this, and some of them make me laugh, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. Like it helps you remember the brand, and I think that's super cool to be a part of, with clients and helping them scale, especially from like the smaller guys who are, really trying to get to that next level. It's super cool to like see that growth and be a part of it.
So, like I said, this is our 101st episode. We have some very loyal listeners. And, most of our people are tuning in on Spotify or Apple. A lot of people are going through Audible on Amazon now, YouTube Music, but we've pushed this over to YouTube as well lately because it's more of a two-way communication. So there are a lot of people that listen to this. So I want you to take this last, what do we have, 5 minutes here and just go ahead and let the world know, like, who do you want to work with? Who are the right clients? And hopefully some of those people could know who you are, connect through us to you, or we'll put your link to your company and your information here. But let them just go ahead and give them what you really are looking for and how you can help them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Little shameless plug for a second.
No shame in the game, man. You
Yeah.
graduated, you earned it, pal.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I love working with direct consumer brands who sell online, and really brands that have products that can stand the test of time and mean something to someone. Brands that want to provide a product that solves a problem, helps people accomplish a goal or raises their status. A lot of e-commerce brands that I work with are in, sports, outdoors, apparel, and then health. And for me, those are all four of, my interests for my life. So I love brands that also are interested in those things, not just do those things. Um, and then brands who are looking to advertise on Meta as well and create some unforgettable ads. Those are really the people that I want to work with and that I love working with as well.
And what do you feel really differentiates you from any of the competitors out there?
I would say that the biggest differentiator, and I think this goes for most businesses who really are trying to do something big, is the people you work with. I could tell you that, I use psychology to make memorable ads, and, not everybody does that. There's, few that do. And I think that is a differentiator. Um, but the biggest one is just like, I think that me as a person is, my biggest differentiator because I love what I do. I'm going to be the best at what I do, and I'm going to make sure that you are the best at what you do with your ads. And I think that comes down to also being the right fit to work with the right people.
Yeah, I've always loved it. The target market that you chose as we went through this process was more in line with the things that you actually love to do. I think it's very rare people actually get to work with or work in the things that they love to do because either they can't find a way to generate revenue in it or they're really not, there's no avenue through to it. So it's very inspiring that you've taken that route and said, "Look, I'm going to do these direct to consumer brands, but it's going to be in those spaces of outdoors, of fitness, of health, of all those things that really embody who Carson is and how he became the person that he is." Because I feel it's one thing to be able to align yourself with somebody and connect with them, but it's another when you already are that thing, right? When you actually are, when you live that thing, and then you're going and creating advertising for it, it must be just so rewarding for the output that your clients are getting. So what kind of feedback are you getting from the people you are working with now?
A lot of them, they love the work, but they're very surprised that like what they see is so relatable to them because, most of the time the brands I work with, they're very into their product, yes, but also the lifestyle that comes with it. So let's say it's a health and wellness brand. They're really into health and wellness. Like that's also aligns with my interests. And I know so many different ways to kind of go about experiences with that and struggles, and goals. And I think experience in the four industries and the interest in those industries that I have kind of decided on is another asset because it's one thing to have me go write an ad for a SaaS company when I don't know about technology, I don't really care for it, and it's not like something that I'm constantly looking at, just on my own for fun. It's another thing when you're constantly looking at, like, health and wellness and sports and outdoors, and, like, that is your life, and being able to do what I love and expand that, do what I love in terms of advertising and creating things for people, but also expand that into my hobbies. It's kind of like everything is just this big conglomerate of just like Carson land. You know, everything's just it's just me. The business is just me and what I love to do, and it just happens to include my interests. And I realized very early on that like I didn't want to be everything to everybody. I wanted to be one thing for, you know, the people that I can relate to. And I think that kind of carries itself over in, many different facets of my life, but the biggest one, just like knowing who I am and not compromising that.
Perfect, man. All right, let's wrap this up. What's one piece of advice that you feel you could give somebody else out there who's going through right as you started, who's starting their business, really trying to go through that? What's something you can give to them?
I would say that don't let the fear of failure outweigh the goals of success.
All right, where can people find you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, any platform at Carson B. Hoffman. And then you can find my company, Kingsman Marketing, everywhere else as well.
Thanks, Carson.
Appreciate it.